wow, I'm really lucky that the world has changed enough that I don't have to focus on like being a woman in a man's world. I can like just be a human in a human's world.
I never really thought of myself as a woman captain. And Clearwater was certainly a good environment where it wasn't particularly pointed out to you what you were or weren't.
Oh, that's so cool, you're a woman captain. And it was like, you don't want to have any reaction, really. You don't want to be a woman captain, you just want to be a captain.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of She Sailor Sea Stories. If you don't know me, my name is Amali Knobloch, and I serve on the board of the National Women's Sailing Foundation. Tonight is extra special for me because I'm also the Outreach and Engagement Manager at the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater, the organization whose legacy inspired me to bring this event to life. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Debbie Huntsman, the president of the board of the National Women's Sailing Association, for allowing me to take up not one, but 2 nights of programming to toot the Clearwater horn. Clearwater is an organization, if you don't know, that launched in 1969 as a beacon of the Hudson Valley and was created to raise awareness about the environmental conditions of the river that we sail on. Since then, through 50 years of public programming, almost 500,000 people have crossed the deck of the sloop, many of whom's first direct interaction with the river took place on board with the captains and the crew. Our next speaker is Cindy Smith. She was the captain from 1994 to 1999 and is really going to share a little bit more about the strength and the wonderfulness of the Clearwater community.
Hi, everybody. So I'll start with talking a little bit about my first impressions, my very first season on the Clearwater. Some of you know I came down from Bar Harbor. I'd been working a tourist schooner up there. The captain at that tourist schooner actually liked having women on his crew because they worked longer and harder and were more careful about what they were doing. But I was really bored with the tourist world. I had recently graduated from Middlebury with so I thought I was going to be a high school science teacher. And so the fact that there was this boat where I could do education and sailing was like the most amazing thing ever. The other way I got there was I had been a student on sea semester on a boat called the Westward with Beth Doxey was the third mate. And she talked about this boat. And Albert Shahinian was also on the crew that summer when I was a student. And so I found Clearwater through them. Now, Betsy and I have talked a little about this, how young we were. Yes, I got to Clearwater, I was 21. It was September of 1988. And I met the boat at South Street Seaport. I'd never been on a subway before and never been down to the seaport. And I eventually found my way there. But what I really remember right from the beginning was what an amazing community of people were on Clearwater. There's a picture, and I don't know if Meg has it or not, but of 4 of us sitting on the pier at Pier 15 with most people are wearing Soviet American t-shirts, Soviet American sail. And I'd never heard of people doing things like the Soviet American sail. I'd never heard of people willing to like really stand up for what they believed in and taking these huge political actions. My first season on the boat, Nadine Block was the first mate. I learned about Greenpeace. I learned about people rappelling off of the Brooklyn Bridge. where they were stopping the sludge barges from going out through the East River. So the activism on Clearwater was a really new, eye-opening experience for me. I came on board as a Maid of the Month. There it is, Sovereign American Sail, with Betsy and me and Joya and Lois and Becca. One of the most amazing things that happened my first season, again, was my first couple weeks, and it's not really my story to tell because I wasn't the captain, but it's going to blend in with this whole concept of community and working together. So I think Beth was in her first season as captain, and we had just started doing an ed sail off of Hastings on Hudson. Now, we didn't go to Hastings for very long. It was a pretty rundown area. And like so many docks along the Hudson at that time, they were either soon to be rebuilt or not. And so they stopped letting kids go across them. But anyway, so we're easing away from the dock, the engine on, just like we always did. And I happened to glance aft and look at the captain, and Beth's got this look on her face. And I hear the engine revving because, she's got to kick the stern out from the dock. But the stern's not kicking. So we're like, huh. And I was just a deckhand, right? I was the Maid of the Month. So I just sort of stayed out of the way. And lots of running up and down as this engineer named Blix, I didn't even know her, was like running down below one hatch and then up and over the deck and down into the main cabin. And she came back up from the main cabin and sort of shrugged and shook her head like, everything's fine. So Beth called for the anchor to be to set the anchor, and whatever crew was on the foredeck did that, and we swung around to the tide, and everything was fine on the boat. We did our education sail there at anchor, and the next thing I remember was that I got to be one of the people to row the kids ashore, because we really had actually lost the propeller. The propeller shaft had broken. The propeller was not there. Talked to Joya about how she had to dive on it however many times. And the guys up in the office who didn't believe her that it wasn't there, I got to row the kids ashore after the ed program, so that they had their ed program. They got to go to shore. I felt really good about that because I knew how to row. It didn't occur to me that everybody didn't know how to row. And I was able to be helpful in this crazy situation. We were getting towed up the river in the dark by this guy on a little boat. It looked kind of like a little lobster boat or something. And we were kind of yawing back and forth widely from one side to the other. And I remember people were very alarmed because we were approaching the Tappan Zee Bridge, and it was pretty hard to know exactly how we were going to get through that span, but it all went fine. There's a picture of Captain Al Nejma and John Mylod standing in chest waders with the water, I swear, just an inch below the top of their waders. We're aground in Croton Bay, and they're putting the new shaft and the new propeller into the boat while we're still in the water, but aground. I don't remember that we had a lot of downtime, and we were back sailing again really fast. Like, how could these people just manage to do whatever it is that had to be done to keep this boat sailing? We didn't miss sails. We didn't want to disappoint the kids. There was no way they were going to be able to reschedule. It was the most amazing amount of teamwork, and I saw it a million times, and a million. Whether it was pumpkin sail or it was an ed sail, just everybody working together to get everything done, whatever needed to be done. So that was my first season. We lost the prop. I had missed most of the Greenport, of the Greenport shipyard that year, but I got to be on board to help bring the boat up to Saugerties. And I was the little eager beaver with her binoculars on bow watch who spotted something in the water and told Beth, I don't think that's a log. And no, it was not a log. And we had to circle around in Kingston Bay for hours until the sheriff or the Coast Guard or somebody got there to collect the poor person who had chose to end their life by jumping off the Kingston Bridge. So that was my first year on Clearwater. All right, Nadine Block was first mate. Betsy was second mate. Joy and I were talking this. I think we had Laura Snyder as third mate. Kelly Klein was bosun. Joya was engineer. And Caroline Van Schaik, I think, was the cook. So it was an all-female crew when Beth was on, and that was pretty cool. It didn't really occur to me that that it was an all-women crew, but I guess it really was. And Al Nejma was the other captain, and Brian and Travis were the educators. So we always had one of the guys on board, but it was still one of the most amazing seasons ever. And that's how I got started at Clearwater. Now, many of you know I came back for years later. One of the other points I wanted to make here was the incredible generosity of the people in the Clearwater community. I was hired as engineer. What did I know about engineering? This crazy volunteer, Pietro, and he taught me everything about how to take care of the boat and the engine from the engineering side of things. And he was so much fun to be around, such incredible patience. You know, in those days, and I understand you guys have a regular generator now, and I don't know what that means compared to what we had, which was the Lister with the generator. We had to have shore power most of the time because we only had lights on the boat for 12 volt, and then we needed the batteries all to be charged up to be able to run the boat. So, you know, I learned all about electricity and 12 volt and things I probably should never have known, like how to wire into a street lamp to make sure we had shore power. And again, the generosity of the Clearwater community, whether it was volunteers or crew or deckhands, you know, educators, was just amazing to contribute every year, and they kept coming back. I remember a volunteer named Gail David. She was a teacher from PS something or other, and she was a great volunteer. Now, I did teach high school for 3 years, and I know how hard it is to be a teacher. And the fact that all of these people from wherever their lives were would give up a week of vacation to come volunteer on the boat to live, you know, in a shoebox with 17 other people to help do the Clearwater work was just an amazing thing. Was really just an amazing thing. And so I really so fondly remember all my time on Clearwater and the incredible experience. Another time of incredible generosity was the year that Betsy was captaining by herself. And she had this endless run of relief captains coming through. And And these are the people who taught me how to be a captain. They taught me how to dock the boat. That would be Mike Cohen and Don Taub and Kevin Jones and Amy Blumberg and Dan Moreland, and I don't know who I'm forgetting, but forgive me for if I forget to mention you. But I loved the fact that they would let me dock, and I learned how to dock, and I think I learned to do it pretty well. It got to be kind of a fun thing. How close to 12 o'clock can you hit the dock for the end of the ed sail? And it was really that fall season of 94 when I came back. I was working as first mate under Betsy and the endless run of relief captains, that I said, okay, I'm ready to take on this responsibility. Kate, I didn't have that absolutely terrifying experience that you did. And I can't even imagine having to be thrust into it before I was ready. But Amy Blumberg did tell me one time, she said, geez, I had no idea being a captain was so much work on this boat. You did everything. But really, Clearwater has the most amazing community, and it's the most amazing river, the most amazing boat, and it's incredibly rare. I have never in my life since Clearwater, and I started on Clearwater 33 years ago, and I've been gone since 99. For those of you who don't know, I live in Maine on the Androscoggin, but I have never found a community like I found on Clearwater. I have never found the generosity of spirit and community and teaching mentorship anywhere else. And so for all of us who have experienced it, I just want you all to know that I treasure it. I treasure all of you. The time Walter Cronkite came on the boat was another huge event. And I loved that. I was very lucky. I think that day it was about 98 degrees out and there was not a breath of wind. It was so hot. But Walter was a great guest to have on board. So thank you all for being a part of one of the most important experiences of my life.
Thank you so much, Cindy. It's really important to, hear all of those different stories about all of the different times where people have come together and shared a crazy experience of something happening on board, and then the community rallying to make it work. I think that's still very, very much true of the community today.